you all have done editing in Davinci Resolve, which is great. I just want to talk about some color grading. I just grabbed a couple of footage, so I'm not. So actually, better that I just use. So I grab a couple of footages and I do a bit of color grading on them. So let's say I grab this footage from this beautiful project. Actually, and then one with a skin tone on it, like this one, maybe from here to there. Also, I'm looking for a long shot as well, like this one. Okay, so and maybe an interior. Or this one maybe. Okay, so let's look at these shots. But you have gone through. Maybe let's assume that you've gone through editing, and you've got multiple shots. And now you want to do color grading. So I start color grading with, so I'm going to start color, so let me just like cut this out. I start color grading, so let's do the color grading for this shot, for example, which is like a very long shot, and it looks bland and flat. However, you want to achieve like the best look possible. So I go to the color, tab or color section, and the first thing you do is to actually, let me just turn this clip off. We're going to turn them on later on. The first thing you do is to go to the camera and select, instead of project, say clip. So then you get this generation 4 and generation 5 color settings. Generation 5 gives you a much flatter color setup, which is full of information. I will tell you what I mean by information. And then just Blackmagic Gamma and Blackmagic Film or extended video. I just go with the film at the moment. And at the moment, it has recognized the ISO that is 125. So let me just go, before going to generation 5, I'm going to choose a generation 4. You will see that there's a lot of bluish tonality in this shot. I press Ctrl F so you can see it in full screen. So this is not supposed to be bluish. The reason is this. The color temperature at the moment is 3200. So what is color temperature? If you remember, light at different time has different tonalities. So let's say if you go out in the morning, you get a different kind of like looking color of the light. This is, in the morning you get like in interior, like in candle or like tungsten light, you get like a kind of red and orangish tints into your light. Daylight is kind of white and like when blue sky and or shadowy overcast of the cloud, it becomes like bluish. So the reason that it is bluish is that this color temperature is not set to the time. So I assume it should be around 5,000 for that time. So when I do that 5,000, you could play around with that. Like this is very bluish, this is very reddish. So somewhere in between, you just realize you can look at the color of the cloud. I think 5,600 or even 5,000 was a good guess. Okay, if this exposure is too bright or too it's blown away, sometimes you just have filmed something and it's just like so blown away. It's just like adjust the exposure here as well. However, I think the exposure here is all right because I can see details and clouds and everything. So maybe just a little bit down, but you will see that when I adjust the exposure, I will lose some information. So actually we have lost some information here in the highlights, which is all right, but like, okay. So this is like the very first setup. So we're gonna move on. We need this area. This is kind of like a node-based color grading area. Our first stage of the process could be us saying that, so you can add a serial node or press Alt-Shift-S, or what was that? It was, yeah, or just right click and say add node, add serial node. So this node could have, in this node we can do a kind of introducing the basic lot or lookup table of the camera. So here you can say that right click lot and then go to the Blackmagic, which is here, and then find your camera. So this movie is filmed on 4K, Blackmagic Pocket 4K, and I use this film to extended video. So this one gives the base color of that time. So this is a base startup. So let's carry on. So I just want to label these nodes. I wanted to find a lookup table chart for you, but like for the Blackmagic cameras, which we'll find it later. So I'm going to label this one. So this one is just a lot, which is like lookup table. So first next step could be just adjusting exposure. Okay. So now if they would have used a so we did the color balance here. So like this first one could be, if you just change the label, could be color or white balance. That's the right word, white balance. So, and this second one is introducing a lot. Actually, you can press Ctrl D to turn them on and off to see like the impact of each one. So next step, we can adjust the exposure. So you can add a serial node or press Alt and S to add a serial node. So this one, let's start like working with these like contrast and temperature and all sorts of these different things. You can start bringing a little bit of contrast here first, but before introducing contrast, you see that I'm start to lose the sky when I introduce the contrast. So I want to lower down kind of the gamma of everything. So make everything just like slightly darker. So like what I'm doing, like I'm just playing with this slider. So maybe more, okay. Now, but like you see that I have lost a lot of my tree here. So it's very black. I'm gonna fix it soon. So you might say that, okay, I just like, instead of like using this gamma, you can use, I press reset this one. You can use a curve, which is this curve. And here you can say, okay, I'm gonna, I'm going to just change you see, I add a dot in the middle and I push it down. So what you will see is that you see that I am not touching my highlights and I'm not touching my shadows. I'm just trying to adjust my midtones. So you see that here my midtones are towards the blacks, and here my midtones are towards the whitish. But somewhere in between, I can find a sweet spot, like when I'm changing it. This is a nice gamma curve. And here you will see me like I have my green there saved without losing too much of that. And a little bit of like, I like to play with this one as well. Just a little bit of darkness here. Nice. So, and then I call that one, change node label. So maybe this one is gamma fix. Okay. And Alt S. So why these are, I do it differently. You can do all of them in one node because you can turn them on and off or come back and know what you're doing with all these nodes. So this one, I can work on contrast. So you see me adding contrast, which is like, so this time you see that the sky is not, getting lost. I add a nice contrast and I call that contrast. And maybe Alt S, another, this one would be saturation. So we need a bit of color here. So I go and add, where is my saturation? Is it maybe here? So you can use this color boost to boost your color. So when it's 0, you see like it's actually they change. Oh, there is saturation. So saturation is bringing a lot of like blue, but this color boost kind of like enhances the color, which I don't like it because it adds a lot of orangish here. But I just increase the saturation slightly. I think this starts to look like what the eye sees on that day. So all of this, let me just open a notepad for you. So far what I've done, so like all of this was color correction. Actually, let's write it there. Color correction. So like adjusting exposure, gamma, which is the brightness and darkness, contrast, saturation, and even sharpness. So you can adjust sharpness in another node, like add another one for the sharpness, Alt S, label that sharpness and use this last one, not that one. Actually, the mixer. So you can adjust sharpness here. So you see that it's blurriness, sharpness. So at the moment it's blurriness. I go to the sharpen and I increase, so like the radius, like when so this is like by default. Just when I make it sharper, if you look at the image, if I press D, so you can see actually I added a nice sharpness around. So far all of this has been correction. So now we're gonna create move on to the creating the look or color grading, or as it is called, the look. This is so far it was all about creating a nice like how it is supposed to be when the eye sees it. But now, so if I press Alt S, so we just go to the second round or row. Here we start to add look. So I just like add all my look here. So usually what I like about adding a look is, so you can start like working on the sky, for example. So actually I call this sky, and I'm not gonna lock it, but I'm gonna reset it. Okay. And so what you do, you just select the sky. When you select it, you see that the sky changes. So like the sky is getting selected in the node, but like we cannot see it. It's because you just have to click on this and you see the sky is selected. If this is not the whole sky, so you can start finding your way around by just looking at this saturation and this luminance. Oh no, that's not the sky. Maybe from this side, a little bit of that. And also you have this feather selection here. You can click on that, like let's say this is a sky 2, this is a sky 2, sky, 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 sky. Oh, that's not sky. So I undo that. So this is minus, this is C, this is C. Okay, but that little one was sky. These are clouds. Oh, okay. Nice. Okay, once selected, you can even soften or blur the radius of the selection. Okay. So now whatever you do on this sky, so I've turned that off. So just imagine that you want a very like dramatic sky. So let's say here you might say that I want this sky to be in the mid-tone, which is, so this lift and gamma and gain are just fancy names. Actually in the HDR you have a proper name, dark, shadow and light. So these are like, I think this is a better naming for that. Actually let's do the color grading in this new. This is actually this panel is new, by the way. It's newly introduced because it works with like high dynamic range images. So you might say that I just want this sky to go towards like orangish. This looks a bit awkward because I am just applying it to the sky, but just wanted to tell you how that mask impacts your I'm gonna reset here, how that mask impacts your selection. So I like to make this sky darker. So you see me, like, I'm just changing these clouds because this is like a kind of a dramatic scene. I like this sky, these clouds to be dark, and I run towards a bit of yellowish. No, that's too much green. Towards orange, just a little. Maybe less. Okay. If these movements are just too harsh, you can. So like, if just with one move you just get a crazy result, you can go to the log, and then when you do, like, you know, it's much more subtle, the movements. But I just use the wheel for the moment. A little bit of red. No, that's too much. Okay. What about the C? So Alt S. Actually, I would like to work on that tree. I select the tree, turn this on. Hello? Oh, that's because I'm not on the selection. Select the tree and adjust this so that it just gets the tree. Add to it, or because this in this shot the tree doesn't move too much, so let me just, instead of that mask, I can use just a squarish mask. I'm gonna remove that one, add another one, and just use like a regular mask around that tree, and it would be a very soft mask. And then I'm gonna turn that off, and then I would say that, okay, so let's make that tree slightly brighter. You see that I'm impacting just that area. If I press Ctrl D, you see that how I changed just that specific area. What about, so that's gonna be great for like tree. You can add Alt S, another node for the C. Oh, no, not that one. C. And this time I'm gonna choose the color of the C because it's a very strong color. And I expand the area. No, don't want the sky. Actually, I would like to expand that. Okay, that's better. Add a lot of softness. So I have a nice selection of the sea now. Turn that off and say, okay, my sea, I like it to be, go to a lot of blue. Oh, that's a crazy blue. So I maybe like a greenish sea, or a reddish sea, or actually just let me reset that. Just a little bit of more blue makes me happy. So now I'm adding one. So if I select these three and Control D, you see that how these three are doing a little bit of adjustment. So I'm adding one node to all of that, and call it all. So for the all, you know that for like a complementary color. So complementary is like those two colors that are opposite to each other. So I can, for the highlights gain, I can run towards warm yellowish. And for the shadows, I can run towards a little bit of bluish. So that's too much of saturation to my eyes. I lower down the saturation a little bit. Oh, okay, that's nice. So now I have an orange and teal kind of color set up here. See? So this is the journey that we've been through from this to this. So if this, so I'm going to bring this clip up. If this is something that you would like, you can right click and say I'm gonna make a if I want to apply everything that has happened here, I just wanted to create a kind of a lot that can be exported. I will find out and tell you. But like if this one needs to look like this, it could be as simple as you while you are on this, middle click on that one, and suddenly that one grabs all the nodes that you have applied here to there. Of course, this is not gonna look all right because you have to select the first one, go to the tab, why it's not showing our gamma control. Let me undo that before applying it. Oh, that's why. This is not filmed with Blackmagic camera. It's filmed with another camera. Probably a, or it's been decoded. It's been probably filmed with Canon 5D Mark II. It says H260, so it's not Blackmagic RAW. But this one is, so I can click on this one and middle click on that, and everything from that is transferred here. Of course, this is not the right color grading for that one. So like what I can do, I just can start from the beginning, make sure that's generation 5, make sure that the lot is right. Actually, what I do, I can, well, there's no C and tree, and so these ones I can delete them, and I can adjust gamma in a much less harsher way here. You see that the skin starts to just like properly show up. Contrast is fine to me. Well, maybe it's too much. You just like set it up here. Then it gets blurry. I think that wasn't fine. Saturation, maybe too much. So just like a little bit less saturated, even less. Contrast. Oh, sorry. Contrast. Actually, yeah, less contrast would be better. More saturation, no, fine. Sharpness. Sharpness is too much. I just lower down the sharpness. And I like that teal and blue. So like, see how quick and fast that's the same thing that we did here applied here, so like before and after. So that's how you make a very nice cinematic image out of your Blackmagic camera. So that's why I always insist that you use a raw Blackmagic footage rather than like filming on, because you get a lot of color data. Can we get like information from here to there, because this is like a portrait image or just like a close-up. So here, yes, we can select that middle click on this, bang. I think that's ready out of this is nice. I have enough information, nice color, maybe a little bit more contrast here. So I go to the contrast over there, maybe a little bit more contrast. Yeah. So if any one of this is interested for you, like let's say you like this setup, you can right click and say grab still. So suddenly that would turn into a lot. So let me just remove that stuff here. Remove everything here. So imagine that like you've got like a, so you like this lot. So there's two ways of transferring this to here. One is pretty much like what I did. Select this one, middle click on that one. But like if you have like loads of shots, what you can do, you can just, once you're happy, just say grab still. And even you can rename these ones. If I how we can rename them. Oh, change label. You can say that this is for close-ups, close-up lot, or lookup table for close-ups. Okay. Then this is a close-up, so I can click on that. Bang. Drag and drop it. Bang. That close-up gets everything that that other one had it. So maybe I make a grab still and that one for change label. This is for the white shot, white C shot lookup table. So then if I would have a similar shot, like let's say I'm gonna go find a shot that is filmed on Blackmagic camera like this one. Yeah, it has C, it has everything. Actually, this is a challenging shot because there's a little bit of missing information, and I'm gonna grab these two, bring them into the editing timeline. Maybe just part of this, well actually all of that, and that one as well. So let's see if this lot works for that. Let me drag and drop it. Bang, it's gorgeous. See, it's just too dark and too contrasted to my eyes. So that's why I just, so you see that I have done it nicely. We don't need the C and these ones, so I remove them. Contrast is just too much. I select that. I lower down the contrast. Gamma is just too much. I double click on that and then I go to the gamma section and adjust that. The rest is very nice, you know. It's just like quick and easy. You can get a nice setup. Actually, the white balance is also set to whatever it was, but it's not just generation 5, so you can set it to generation 5. Always, I don't know why the generation 5 setup doesn't translate, or maybe because I have set this to generation 4. Oh, yeah, that's my bad. Okay. Okay. It's very much of my bad. Anyway, don't forget to set it to generation 5, which gives you a much better rendition and much more information. See like how much detail you get here. Let's do a bit of grading on that and then finish today. So I would start with going to clip generation 5, Blackmagic, exposure, ISO is already set. Color temperature, we figured out around 5000 was a good color temperature. So that's the white balance, or just the original setup. I label it white balance or raw setup, Alt and S for this time. Let's do the gamma correction. So I go to the gamma correction. I always like to add, so let's go like it gives me a wrong gamma correction for some reason. Let's try this. Yeah, that gives me a better gamma correction. Or maybe if I use HDR here and then global exposure. No. I go back to the normal one. I'm gonna close this clip so I can see it larger. Okay, what if here I say that highlight recovery? When you have a look at here, actually. So you see that the highlight is lost. I say that highlight recovery, the highlight returns back, which is just magical, which is great. I use that highlight recovery. I think it would help me a little bit more. Okay, so I have a chance to adjust the exposure here. I see that the exposure, I think it's been a bit of off. So I try to find the right exposure. Maybe it's somewhere around here. You see, like when I lower it down, I start to see a better like color. Somewhere in between here, I think I'm more comfortable with that. Then I go to the color and then lower down. Ah, yes. Now I start to see a proper color. So, what about contrast? So let's do a 1 Alt S for contrast. This one gets a bit of contrast. And Alt S, another one for saturation. So that one, the saturation would be set. Yep, this is just too much because like the green is too poppy. I go down a little bit, just see this, the blue of the sky showing up, and the green shows up, and that's enough. Alt S, and that one would be sharpness. So then we go and say that it gets sharper. This is too sharp, just somewhere like this. So Alt, Control F for a full screen. I think it's a good start. So now I'm gonna do like make the sky much more dramatic, like work on the sea and like all of that. So maybe this time I start with an overall Alt S. I like it. So the top row are the color correction for color grading. You can work on separated masked areas and overall harmony. So you see me most of the time I use complementary harmony and all sorts of other stuff. So here I go with so for the highlights I go towards warm highlights. For the shadows I go towards yellowy shadows. But the point is, you know, my blacks all get a lot of blue here. You see, it's not good. So what you can do, you can go to blah, blah, blah. I'm trying, okay, so there is one thing here which is oh, yeah, it's here. I can say hue versus luminance or saturation versus luminance. So this means that I'm gonna say that the area that like saturation, so like the luminance is dark, I want the saturation to be very low. If I zoom into the black areas, you can kind of can see blue. There's a lot of blue, but the saturation from the blue is taken or not. If I reset it, luminance versus saturation. What about this one? No, it's not helping me. Anyway, I get back to my color grading. So that's too much blue. I might use the log, so I reset that. I reset my, okay, I'm gonna delete that. Alt S, one more time, one more try. So midtones, I would like the feeling of this scene would be a little bit warm. So I move the midtones towards. So you see that it's because it's log, it moves like things changes very subtle. So I go to the wheels again. So midtones, I would like it to be like kind of yeah, kind of orangish, and I get back to 0. Even highlights, I like them to be warm, but not that much, a little bit. I don't like that. Reset. I go just a touch towards. Yeah, and shadows just a touch towards blue, not that much, but just a touch. Okay, so that's an overall harmony, or whatever you want to call it. I just invented that name. So then I'm gonna work on the sky here. So I select the sky, click on that. Yeah, that's a nice selection right out of the bat, because it's a very sharp sky. Okay, so turn that off. Maybe if you want this sky, actually add a lot of blur as well. if you want this sky to be, you know, orangish or yellowish or whatever, but that looks very unnatural. I would go and make it offset towards maybe more blue. Yeah. So instead of that, why not I increase the saturation of the sky? Yeah, that works better. But I just have to increase this blur radius. Okay, so that saturation works better for me. Also, I like the sky to be slightly brighter. Okay, now let's do the trees here. Let's lay Control F. Okay. What if I get a nice green on the sea? Alt S, C, select C, and adjust it so that it just gets the sea. I can say these are not. This is the sea. It's really hard to choose that. Okay, I want the sea, but I don't want the sky. So I can do this selection, add blur, and then add a box on top of it. Because this shot, the camera not moving too much, even if the camera moves, you can track that area. Let's add a bit of blurriness to the edges. Okay, that could be nice for me to make this sea nice and green. Oh, that's nice. It's actually just too much. I lowered down the saturation slightly. Okay, so I can carry on and work creatively. You see that it's like a painting, you know, starting from this and getting to this. So, and once you're happy, you can say grab still, so that one turns, and rename it. That one turns into a like, let's say for the cliff scene, that would turn into a nice ready you know, thing to apply. So I'm gonna look at that last clip. Yeah, we've okay, all good. That was like a very basic color grading in Davinci Resolve.